Hey, this is Mike. I've been getting a lot of questions about my hydroponic rig and what it would take to get your own set up. So I thought I'd step through some of the key components of it today, and in other videos I can talk about some of the gotchas and things like that. You can probably hear maybe some of the water running in right now. I'm just kind of getting the system primed up, getting ready to put plants in. So let's start at the head end here. You can see I have 3 different lines, and the reason why I have 3 lines rather than just one big one is that there can be different kinds of nutrient solution. So basically the nutrient solution is water and a bunch of different salts and minerals that you put in that water that the plants love. And I get mine from a place called Hydro Gardens out in Colorado, and they have excellent nutrients, tells you exactly how to build it or mix it up. And for a whole 55-gallon drum like this, I think it's going to take about maybe 2/3 of your typical 16-ounce solo cup of chemicals. You weigh it all precisely, dump it in there, stir it up, and that's going to be probably a week of nutrients during the hottest part of the year. And that may be, I don't know, maybe $1 or $2, something like that. So anyways, when you have 3 55s like this, it allows you to have 3 different mixes. Like typically I may have, in this line, I'll have my tomatoes. So I'll have a mix there that works really good for tomatoes and plants that are similar to that, like peppers. They're all from that same common nightshade family. And then over here, I'm going to have maybe a mix that'll work really good for cucumbers. And along with cucumbers, I may do like squash. They're all cucurbits. I could also do, I've done eggplant in the past, and that works really good with a cucumber mix. And third one, let's see, I've been doing a lot of cucumbers lately. I'm not sure what I'm doing this year that's going to be a little bit different. I'm going to try some different stuff for the fun of it. Anyways, so that's why I have 3 55s. They're just dug into the ground. And then at the bottom of this, you can see this is just regular sprinkler hose, really cheap black sprinkler hose that you can get from Home Depot with an elbow. And then in here, I have a quick disconnect there that makes it really easy to connect this in the wintertime and put the pump inside. This is really all I need for about 15 buckets, and it's the model number on that, if you can't see it, the AAPW800, and it's an active aqua. They work really well. I think a couple of these have been running for about 4 or 5 years now, and just run without a hitch. They have a filter on them that you can go and change out real easy. So what happens there is that guy's pumping, and it pumps up, and you can see I have that black hose running underneath all of these buckets. And then from there, I have this really simple line that comes up from there and runs in, and that's about all you need. I have this little plastic clip that I made, or plastic, this little metal thing that I made out of some simple wire, just to hold that in there, because one of the big problems that you have is if you don't have that in there and this falls out, you'll come home from work or something, and after running twice, your hydroponic tank will be totally empty, and you've just wasted a couple bucks worth of nutrients. And if that happens first thing in the morning, you could come home and your plants will all be dead because they will dry out so fast. So, and then people may be asking, what's the deal with these blue baskets? Well, that's the other issue that we have, is that the more fittings that you have in this small 1/8-inch line, the more they get plugged up. For example, I used to come up from there, come into right here, and then I'd put a T there, and then have like 2 lines feeding out of it. Well, it would always plug up right at that T. In fact, I used to have a T, and then 2 more T's one here, one here, and then one over here. So I'd actually have four small little pieces of tubing that would get the whole box really saturated well. Well, I decided after years of having plugs to just go really simple, and all I have now is one fitting down here where it is just press fit into that black tubing, and then just a simple length of pipe. And then up here, this just fills up this little basket here. I got these at the dollar store. They're 33 cents a piece. And you can see pretty clearly what it does. It fills this up, and then it goes and it spills out all of the different holes. If a leaf or some of this were to fall in there, it doesn't care. You know, it could fill up all the way to the top, and it'll still be fine. And it'll distribute that water across half of that bucket really well. I have it in the front of the bucket because if we look at the profile here, you can see that the bucket has a big notch in it. That is because, let's see if I can do this. You can see right there is the drain for this bucket. And that drains down into this 2-inch pipe and then goes all the way back here and dumps back into the reservoir. So I used to have these little baskets at the back, so they'd be sitting like this, thinking, well, that's going to fill up the back of this bucket really well. Well, the problem with that is it makes a really shallow root area right here, where if I put this at the front, let's put that back where it was. If I put this at the front like this, the roots can go really deep here, especially for tomato plants. Your average tomato plant will pretty much, by the end of the season, fill this whole Dutch bucket with roots. You'll pull the stalk and the entire bucket worth of perlite will come out. Oh, quick note on that. This is perlite, which is a expanded volcanic rock, and it's really porous, and it's also really cheap. I have a bag over here. I get it from a place called Kinney Bonded Warehouse here in Tyler. In fact, that is what it looks like. This whole big bag is, I think, maybe 10, 12, probably $15, something like that. Super simple. You just pour it in there and put your plants in it. The reason why I use that instead of dirt is it's absolutely neutral, so you don't have to worry about it having a negative impact on the plants. Let's see, what else can I talk about here? Oh, the wood stand that they're sitting on. If I back over here a little ways away, let's see, there we go. You can see that they're all going downhill pretty well. That's 1/4 inch per foot, so this is about 30 feet along. So 30 quarters is 7.5 inches of fall from that side all the way to this side. You don't want to go less than that, because what will happen is if for some reason there's any sort of plug in this 2-inch pipe, and that can happen towards the end of the year, what happens is that, like right here, right at that hole, the roots from the plant will actually go down the hole, and it'll actually restrict the flow of nutrient solution going back in this pipe, back to the reservoir. So what happens is, if there isn't a free flow of nutrients going across there, it's going to find the first hole upstream from that, and it's going to pour out. You can see that I have some extra holes in here from previous configurations, where I had all the buckets kind of closer together. So the water would just be pouring out of there. Again, you're wasting nutrient solution. That's the first thing, and which is money. And the second thing is you could actually run your tank dry, and then all your plants die before you get home from work. So let's see. As far as the layout goes, I have these all at 24 inches on center. So that's how I get 15 buckets. out of a 30-foot line. So all told, I have 45 plants there, or I will have 45 plants. Each bucket typically has one plant in it. At the back, I have typically done tomatoes in the past. I think I'm going to move them to the front this year because the cucumbers, the leaves are so big on them, they can cast a little bit of shadow and keep the tomatoes from doing all that they could. The tomatoes need the sun, I think, more than the cucumbers do. So anyways, as far as the stand goes, really simple construction. It's basically just two 2x4s spaced, I think they're 10 inches apart. And then this 2-inch pipe sits right on top of that. And I think it has like a 1-inch hole in it. Super simple, straight down. And then I used 2x4s, you can see right there. And down a little bit more, another 2x4, and as I go down this way, you can see all the 2x4s that are actually holding it up. If I had to do it again, what I would probably do is I'd take like a 1-inch spade bit, and I would drill it straight through. Let's go on the back side here. I would drill it straight through this 2x4, all the way through. And then I would go tap that into the dirt, and I'd probably 4 feet on center, and I'd tap like a piece of conduit in there, and then I'd jack up this whole thing so it's a perfect level. So you have a piece of conduit going through that 1-inch hole down so that it's really tight in there, and then you just run a screw through like that, through the wood and into that piece of conduit, and you have a leg that's going to be the perfect height. So that part of it is pretty easy to figure out. One thing that's a little bit challenging to figure out, and I use kind of a, I guess a simple man's method to solve this, is that, let's see, I want to make sure everything's good here. It is. Okay, so, we had disconnected this one. See how this one's running out? Over the course of a day, that would be empty. That would drain the entire reservoir. So that's back and working. So here's the challenge. We have the pipe coming up from the pump down there that I showed you before. It comes up like this and goes down. If we take from here, we go off that one, and the next one, we keep going all the way down. Can you guess which one is going to get the best water pressure and therefore the most water flow? Is it going to be this side? Or is it going to be all the way down on that side closest to the pump? If you guess this side, you're right. So to solve that issue, what I do is I take that black pipe, I come off the pump, and I go halfway down. Right to about where this upright is for our shade, or not our shade, but our netting system to keep the birds out. We'll talk about that in a future episode. Anyways, right in here somewhere, right in the middle, I'm going to back up so I can see this. So I have a supply line that starts over here, and it goes without any holes in it all the way to here. And then it tees and splits like that. So then I have the one that goes this way, about halfway down, and I have one that goes from here halfway down this way. And then I have tees that split it like that, and tees that split it like that. What that ends up doing is having almost perfect flow across every one of the 15 buckets. If it was 16 buckets, it would be perfect, because it would come out and it would split at 8 and 8, and then it would split like this, and these two would split, and you'd have 4 and 4 and 4 and 4, and that would work out really well. So it's pretty simple to figure out, and this tubing is so cheap. And then to cap off a piece of tubing, it's really simple. You just use something like this. You bend it over. The nice thing about this is when you want to go wash out your system, you can just slide this off. And there you go. It's just that easy. Close it up. You just go like that and push that back in there. So that is how you run your water, how you build your stand, how you get the drain to all work well. On this side, by the way, I just put an elbow. At the end of the season, or I should say at the beginning of the next season, what you'll want to do is pop this elbow off here and then just push your garden hose down that all the way, because stuff can get in there. One time I had a lizard nest halfway down that was stopping the water from flowing. Well, I just pushed the garden hose down the pipe to the other side, and eventually it all just washed into the tank on that side. I fished it out. Lizards were all happy, and I was happy because my drain was flowing really well again. So that's how I keep that clear. At this point, I'm getting really close to being able to go put some plants in here. This is kind of a final kind of shakedown of the system. One thing that happens when you first fill it up, you can see right here, a bunch of perlite all over the ground. What happens in the bottom, it's kind of hard to explain, but the drain for these, I'm going to go over here. The drain for these is up from the bottom. You can kind of see it there. Let's do it like this. Oh, that's another thing. I ended up having an intermediate every 2 feet like that, holding the two stringers together, and it also gives a nice thing for the box to sit on. So anyways, you can see the bottom of that. Inside, there's actually an elbow that goes up, over, and down like that. You can kind of see that little drawing there. And then there's a little open spot here. Well, what can happen is when you go put all this perlite into this box, sometimes what happens is the perlite comes up and it builds up this and plugs it tight. And then what happens is the water level rises because it can't go down through the two elbows here, and then it flows over the side. And if you do that with nutrients, again, all the nutrient goes on the ground, and your tank empties, and your plants could die. So it's kind of a hassle to fix. Oh, my timer just shut off. Typically what I'll do is I will go and put some like wire tie or something like that. I'll poke it up through that hole enough to get it flowing, and once it's flowing, then I can go get that set up on there. In the past, I've tried other things like using a mesh bag, like they use them for painting, for when you're using a air gun for spray painting, and it will actually, they use that to filter the paint out to get all the solids out of there. Well, they sell these things that are about a 2-gallon size bag that fit perfectly in these buckets. And that year I had no problems with perlite getting down through that drain and plugging it up. The only problem is those bags are like $1 a piece times 45. You know, for the first year, I might consider it again, just so that's you don't have to worry about losing any nutrient solution down the drain or down on the grass and putting your plants at risk. So that is a whole lot of talk. Here I talked earlier about the timer stopping. Let me talk real quick about that, and then we'll call it quits for today. So over here on the wall, I have a couple of things. First off, this is my power feed. It comes in, and I have one power cord that goes over to this pump start relay. And then this is my orbit timer. And this timer is really cool. It's called a Beehive. The thing I really like about it is it has an app on my phone that I can actually, from my phone, say, go ahead and start that zone. And what it does is I can say, start my hydroponic zone every 4 hours. And what it'll do, it sends a signal out to this pump start relay. And then the pump start relay, what that does is, this is low voltage from here to here. That fires the relay that connects the high voltage. So then the high voltage is this orange, and it goes down through here, and into this box, where I split it. It's basically right now just a one-way male into a three-way female, and then the plugs, you can see them. It's pretty low tech. The plugs for the 3 pumps all come in and they plug into this. So either on a timed basis or when I want it to, it's equivalent of going in here and saying, hey, let's go start this, we're going to go clear this. It's the equivalent of going here, we're going to start all stations for 5 minutes, and if you listen over here to the pump start, just heard it kick off, pumps all started, and there we go, we have water flowing out of the system. You can do that with other kind of timers as well. The biggest challenge is trying to find something that's going to be pretty weatherproof. I've used some timers that don't hold up really well to the hot temperatures, and then what happens is your pump doesn't start, and if your pump doesn't start, your plants die because it gets too hot out in the mid of summer and bad things happen. You're probably seeing a common theme here about nutrient not getting to the plants and the plants die. It takes about really 8 hours to really damage a plant in the hot of summer. If they were in dirt, you could go days without watering, but that is one of the prices you pay for hydroponics. Anyways, I think I'm going to call it quits for today. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below, or those of you in the Tyler area, or really anywhere else. You know how to get a hold of me on Facebook. Just hit me up. I'm happy to answer questions. Have a good night.